The doctor is in. Live from Martha's Vineyard, Touch Talks Wellness. I'm going to try to get up gracefully and sit in a chair. Hey guys.
Hi. Hello.
Guys. So we are at our house on Martha's Vineyard, Oak Bluffs. We've been here now. I can't believe we've been doing this for almost 2 weeks.
This is amazing.
Right? We started like a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And we have been we had a really, really great talk today about men's health. And I talk to women all the time. So to have men was so great to have men around.
Like a change of scene.
I know, a change of scene.
It was a nice look.
I know, it really was good. They're all handsome.
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, so if you missed that episode, it's on YouTube. You should watch it. But it was so great. So guys, you been with me?
Huh?
All week.
Yeah.
I know. So let's talk about what's going on, but introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Adila Abbasi. I am the Director of Community Outreach and Health Equity with the Allergy and Asthma Network.
And we're so happy to have you here.
And I'm very happy to
we haven't
be
done
here.
allergies and asthma
I
before,
know
right?
this is a new addition to the
Yeah,
programming,
yeah.
and I think it's a fantastic fit. And there are respiratory conditions that are related to breast cancer and
Right.
respiratory with other health implications as well.
Yeah, so excited.
Yeah.
And who are
Hi,
you?
I'm Sloan Cargill, and I'm a Young Women's Advisory Board member for Touch, as well as being the Vice President of Institutional Advancement at Jackson State University.
So,
Hello, I am Sydney Flowers, and I am the CEO of Cocoa Vibe, the Collaborative Connection Vibe, and a friend of Ricky and all things Touch, and anything they do. I've just been happy to be associated and watch the journey because it's been a ride.
It's been a ride. It's been a ride. It's been a ride. So you guys, I really just want to talk about what we've been doing here all week, right? So we've done breast screenings for I guess 8 days. We've done heart screenings for like 4 days. We actually found 3 breast cancers, which is pretty crazy. One of the women was 25. So it kind of validated why we need to be doing this work in the community. We've met so many people along the way, and we've been live every day. Everything's on YouTube. You can watch it, and on our Facebook page. But I think we've learned a lot. And every year we've done this, we've learned more and more, and it kind of validates why this is such an incredible environment to be in. We're with a lot of people, a lot of people who are movers and shakers in their community, and they're going to hopefully go back and take this knowledge home with them. And so I think it's really important to be here. So
Can I share something that I
Please,
learned
yes,
just
yes,
listening?
yeah.
I thought I didn't know about the screenings and how they worked, but a lot of people were talking about how gentle the breast cancer screening is, and that it's different from a mammogram because it's I got a mammogram already. And they're like, no, this is different. And people felt so comfortable and at ease. That was the talk on the town. So I just wanted to say
That's so great.
that is prop.
Yeah, with ultrasound, it doesn't hurt.
Mhm.
And you're in our kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very warm
I know.
environment.
Yes.
Yes.
In the kitchen, people are hanging out there, and there's food around and people around to talk about it. But it is a comfortable environment,
Yes.
and we're catching people when you don't have to make an appointment. We're catching a lot of young women, like the woman that we found at 25, who would not be able to get a mammogram because she's not 40 yet.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And so we really encourage young women to come to get the screening. And it's so, when you don't really have to think about it, you
Yeah.
have to take a day off of work.
Yeah.
You know what I've really loved, because this is the second year that I've come to the island and watched. I love what Touch is about, and I love the fact that you go and your slogan is where women work, play, slay, and pray.
Yeah.
Live, play, pray, and slay.
Yeah, there you go. And everywhere we've gone, it's just been like it's almost like this light bulb has gone off. Ricky and I have gone down to the polar bears, and women coming out of the water, and we're saying we're giving free screenings. Just walk up the street, and people are like, "Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's such a good idea!" Like, I'm coming. And literally yesterday, we were down. We had a screening at a panel at the Strand, and we had, like, I swear, 15 people walking up the street following us.
Parade.
And they
Parade.
all were sitting outside, and we put music on, and people were in the kitchen, and we brought out food, and and everybody's getting their screenings and checking their health. And I think it's just such a, we're all here, and so to have this is such a good environment to go and just make sure that you are healthy, so that you can be there for your family and continue to come here.
Yeah. I think something that's really powerful about it, to that point of just walking down the down circuit to the Strand, is like the word of mouth. And the people who will come by on the first day was here on Saturday. I think on Sunday it was the neighbors who were coming out and they were saying, "Oh, like what do you all have going on?" And then we talked to them, and then they say, "Okay, I'm going to go bring back like my mom and my grandma and my daughter," and then to see like a full car, a couple. I saw a one woman brought 3 carfuls of people
Yeah.
on Sunday.
To get
And
through.
like that is amazing. And we continue to like meet them as we're like around the island, and it's just spreading the word more and more. And people are walking around with the touch totes that we
Yeah.
passed out. I think we passed out over 400 so far.
It's
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
I love being with Ricky, and they're like, "There's the breast lady."
Yeah.
The
The bootleg.
bootleg. I love being called. Even though I fake one. But no, I think it's, it's kind of our place to be, and we'll keep making it our August home.
Yes.
We'll keep making it our August home, and hopefully every year we'll up the program, up the level of conference. And we have people telling us, okay, this is what you can do next year. Like one of our awesome funders said, can you talk more about prostate cancer and lung cancer this year? And we did on our cancer day, and I think we need to have more specific conversations, because the first year I think we did breast cancer, and then we did like last year all the cancers, but I think they all deserve a conversation because they're all different, but clearly we can't talk enough about early detection.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just can't talk enough about it. And we talked today, even with the men, I brought up the concept of cigars. When you walk by the Q house on Narragansett,
Coming out.
Yes.
and we know it's not a good thing, but it's a social thing. And even today, the guys were saying how there's a cool factor to it, but there's also the marketing of vaping, the marketing of smoking cigars, and how they're really targeting Black people, and we are falling for it.
And I have to say, being a single woman, yes, I'm a single woman. You go to cigar bars because that's where guys are. They're at, and so it's become like this social, single hangout thing too. That's just,
Not good. So
unhealthy.
A strong recurrence, which is very interesting. I think I like grew up when we had all those campaigns on TV, seeing on MTV about anti-smoking. I think it was very effective in the like 2010s and 2015. But now it has been like a complete, like it feels like a reversal. But communicating that just because it looks cool doesn't mean that this should be, or even that you're on vacation. Because I think when people go on vacation, they are lax, right?
do the things that
I'm not at home. Yeah, but it's like being mindful of that throughout your entire day to day in your whole life, because it makes an impact.
And I think it also speaks to the beyond genetics, beyond like the social determinants of health. Your environment, it includes your culture, it includes the marketing around you and who they're marketing it to. So you're speaking to very important implications that we have to tackle. So you can't just tackle the disease itself, you have to do everything that's around it, right? The culture that's set around it.
Yeah. So let's talk about your stuff for a second. And I'm like going all over the place, but can you talk to me about sort of the incidence numbers for Black people?
Yes, so in adults, asthma has double the prevalence in adults, but it goes further than that. I think it's more prevalent, it's more than just prevalence. It is hospitalizations are at least 2 to 3 higher for Black adults. And it even goes up exponentially for Black women. And then for children, it's about 5 times as frequent for emergency room visits.
Wow.
So hospitalizations, emergency room visits, a lot of people of color seek their medical care from emergency rooms, right? That's where they get it. That's where it starts. That's where it stops, right? So they're not going to see supplemental help. Allergy and Asthma Network has an asthma coaching program for adults. So that's supposed to be the supportive outside of your PCP, outside of your specialist. You can get one-on-one time with a certified asthma coach. And so just making sure that you're seeking out supplemental care. The prevalence in Black Americans is very high. It is very high. And then we also we don't just focus on asthma, we focus on allergies. So food allergies also has a very high prevalence in Black Americans. It's around the same numbers, about 2 times higher for adults, about 5 times higher for children. Again, you're looking at higher hospitalizations, you're looking at lack of resources in certain communities that exacerbate the situation, exacerbate, how to say that word. And yeah, and so it's just higher prevalences across the board, but there are social determinants that also heavily impact, right? So you have genetic and you have social determinants. Yeah, and it traps people. We also focus on skin conditions like eczema. Eczema is also something very prevalent in the Black community, very underdiagnosed in the Black community because skin of color, and it's harder to detect. And a lot of physicians are trained on the Eurocentric form of identifying skin conditions, so it can oftentimes go overlooked or misdiagnosed. So very important to self-advocate, to understand how to self-advocate, to never take the first diagnosis as truth, to make sure that you're getting multiple diagnoses, making sure that you're asking the doctor questions. How are you trained? Were you trained in my skin color? Because it could be a Black doctor that wasn't trained correctly.
Right.
So yeah, just because they're Black doesn't mean they know, but
Right.
you'll have a higher likelihood seeking out a Black doctor or a doctor with skin color.
Interesting. Do you think, you know, we find with cancer, you know, people know nothing
Yeah,
until they're in a crisis.
right.
Is that true for allergies?
Oh,
asthma?
1000%.
I mean, like, I think about a mom, you know, my sister had asthma
Mhm.
growing up, and I remember her being hospitalized at like 2 years
Yeah.
old.
So you said the key phrase there. A lot of people, allergies and asthma is oftentimes onset at childhood, right? So you oftentimes know at childhood that you have it and then you can take care of it. But it's not uncommon to have adult onset asthma or
My mother got it at
allergies.
50.
Yeah.
My
I didn't
sister
know that.
outgrew it, and my mother got it at
Yeah,
50.
people outgrow. So you never really truly outgrow it. It still exists,
Right.
right? But you learn how to control it. You know, you learn how to stay away from things. Your body starts to kind of ease. The immune system understands it a little bit better when you
Right.
control it well. But then that takes care. That takes care, time,
Right.
you know, your family understanding. There's a lot of, particularly in food allergy. I mean, my family's from Pakistan, and if I said I was allergic to something, they'd lock me out of the room. Right? I have an early adult onset allergy to onions. Not a full-blown allergy, more of an intolerance. But when I asked my mom if she could cook our, you know, our cultural food without onions, she literally laughed and walked out of the room. She was just like, "What are you asking me?" So there's a lot of, you know, insensitivity
Yeah.
to cultural insensitivity to allergies, because they're like, we don't have allergies. That's for Americans, you know.
Well, is
Yes.
it also hereditary? Because my
Yes.
brother went into anaphylactic shock from peanut butter,
Mhm.
and then my daughter at 2 had a tiny piece of a cashew and went into shock.
Yes.
And so yeah, she's had had to have an EpiPen 3 times
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, there's so many unknowns still, you know, in the science of it all. But yes, genetic is one of the ways that you can get it. It's, you know, it's still unknown the exact route, but genetics is absolutely one. And you mentioned 2-year-old early introduction is that's the new kind of the new medical formula for getting children to overcome their food allergies. So you introduce the food early, where I think for a long time, since the 80s, they were recommending you don't feed your child till 6 months, but now they're looking at the 2-month to 4-month window to start feeding the child and slowly introducing these allergens, the top 9 allergens, so that they can overcome that allergy.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm allergic to shellfish.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that allergy till I was 26.
The same thing happened to my dad.
Yeah.
He grew up in Jamaica, ate shellfish his whole life, comes
too.
to America, and he stopped eating it. So I've always, now I'm 32, I like try to have shellfish at least once a week, because I'm like, hopefully it's
It will
not,
continue, your
if I
body will
continue, yeah, I don't know if there's any science behind that, but
There
to me
is.
it makes sense.
There absolutely
It's the
is.
same thing.
Yeah,
Because you don't want to get the allergy.
we have to have
Yeah.
exposure. I think it was exposure
I mean,
therapy.
We know, like, you know, everybody in this room knows, and everybody out there knows somebody that it has environmental allergies, right? You know, they do say as a child, let your child go outside and play, because your body starts to adapt, and your body, you know, the things that are in the air, the pollen and whatnot, and the pet dander and whatnot, your body just starts to respond to it differently, right? But if you're isolated in a place and your
Yeah.
body is unfamiliar
That's
with
my
it,
biggest piece of advice to new moms is let your kid eat dirt.
let them eat
Let
dirt,
them
let them
eat dirt.
touch the grass, let
Yeah.
them be in the environment that they live in.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it,
What was your most interesting conversation this week with a patient or with patients? What did you
today
take
with
away
the
from?
folks,
Yeah.
the folks coming here. Well, yeah, I mean, what I had mentioned earlier about how they were so comfortable getting the screenings, which was
Yeah, but I mean,
fantastic.
relative to
and I
your
think-
information.
Yeah, I mean, so many people live with asthma and allergies, or know so many people that live with
Yeah.
asthma and allergies, you know, and I'm always shocked. I did just do an event in Harlem with Black Health Matters, and I was so surprised to see about 85% of the people that came to our table, and we saw about 250 people in the span of 4 hours. It was, I mean, we were inundated with people. I was so shocked that 85% of those people had asthma, for sure, asthma, and they know that they have asthma, and some had it under control, and many did not.
Did not.
Right. So that coaching program, we were able to introduce the
Yeah.
coaching program to them. It's free, it's virtual, so it's on your own time. It's amazing supplemental support around, you know, past your PCP or your specialist. And a lot of people just don't even have a relationship with their PCP or specialist, or it takes, you know, if you're on Medicare, it could take months to get into a doctor's office.
Good care.
So this is, I think, especially important.
But I find that, you know, I'm in different organizations and we're picking the dinner or the lunch and people want to put nuts in it. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. And they're like, oh, I'm like, you know, nuts are like the #1 allergy. And people laugh because I'm not allergic to nuts, but my brother, but I can't eat anything with nuts.
Yeah.
Because I think it triggers me like my whole life. If I taste a nut or peanut butter or something, I'm like, this has nuts, like, you know, you can't eat this, you can't eat this. But my daughter, you know, we had a picture in her daycare so that if she had a substitute, they would know what she was allergic to. And then the kids, I get calls from mom saying, you know, it's Peter's birthday tomorrow and I'm bringing a cake and I just want to make sure Mackenzie can have a chocolate cake. Right. But on the flip side, there were moms who were like, well, I'm pissed because I can't have peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah, it's silly. It is a disability. Food allergies are listed as a disability.
Is it
So
really?
folks,
Oh, wow.
yes,
I
so
didn't know
folks
that.
out there that don't know, your school, your local elementary school, public school, whatever, has to accommodate a 504 plan. Happy to answer more questions about that at another time, but a 504 plan has to be implemented so that the school is responsible for ensuring that your child is safe at lunchtime, safe during snack time. So that's very important. And I would talk to an attorney or something if you feel like the school is not accommodating your 504 plan. But yeah, it is listed as a disability.
Great.
Mhm. And I was also going to add Martha's Vineyard. What I learned is that there's a huge uptick in ticks, excuse the pun,
Tick.
uptick in ticks because of the increase in population of deer in this area. And so the deer are attracting the ticks. So there's a lot of ticks, and ticks, tick bites. If you're familiar with the Lone Star disease, it's called that because it started in Texas. But when you get a tick bite, you can get alpha gal. So alpha gal becomes an allergy to meats and dairy. And a lot of people apparently on this island who live more native to this island have it now. And it's becoming more and more prevalent on this island. And so apparently a lot of restaurants, because I noticed a lot of like food allergy listings on restaurants, and I was so proud every time I'd go like, thank you for listing that.
Well, I was just telling her, I went out to dinner with a friend last night and she's allergic to shell, and she's went and had the cook come out and say, and you know, is there any cross contamination? And he was like, no. It is so, we are so strict. It is such a huge thing here. And I didn't know why.
Yeah.
That's why.
Alpha gal really limits people's diets, and it presents differently in different people, but for the most part, it's dairy and meat. Which is
There's a lot of things.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
I was
Yeah.
I would still
No
no ice cream and no steak.
and
no
ribs.
We're not getting
Right?
far without that.
And you'll notice a lot more vegan restaurants on this island as a
Oh, yeah,
result.
there are a lot of.
I think that really gets to the point for both what you're saying is the need for one, it has to be structural and systematic in terms of addressing things like allergens and awareness, but then also like that community piece of it, because you have to have like your community that's willing to come together and say, we take it serious that you have this allergy. Like the fact that you in your mind, you as someone who is not allergic to peanuts and nuts, you're so conscious of that. And that makes you like a great advocate. And I think that that's something that has been a big sticking point in my head about like how much the importance of what we're doing here over these 12 days, almost 2 weeks. I don't know how many, is about like the building of community, the conversations that we're having. I've learned a lot about allergies now. And then we're like continuing to learn about the breast cancer. I think one of the most impactful things that I was really thought was profound is having those two happen in the kitchen, the healthcare, the heart screening and the breast screening. It's so important to us that I think as women that we're thinking about our stress levels and we're thinking about heart healthiness, but it takes a community to do that and
Right,
keep at the forefront.
right. Well, that's what I was gonna ask you next, Sloan, is, what was your biggest takeaway so far from all the stuff that we've been doing? Like you came in and, you know, you've watched young women get screened and, you know, Sloan is on our Love of My Girls advisory team. She helps with, you know, everything that we do. We run it by the community. We never put out anything without like your blessing. So we're grateful for you to be here for us. But what did you take away meeting young women coming to the house and coming to?
I think meeting the young women that are coming in, standing, and there was a moment we were in the kitchen, and there were a couple of young women who it was like a mother and her daughter who was in that early, I didn't get her age, but somewhere probably around 25. And I have been thinking about the young women who already found the malignancy of how important that it is. Because I remember myself at 25, even though I knew that breast cancer ran in my family. We had quite a history of it. I still was learning about like what does that mean actually be in this space. And so to see some of the young women that come through take that time away. Because I also know if I was on vacation with my friends at 25, I might have had to be dragged kicking and screaming to go and be like, I'm gonna not be at the beach. I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna hear these panels. I think that has been very profound because we know that getting the attention, we are in a space where the attention is hard to capture. Particularly, I think about it from a higher ed perspective. We are always thinking, myself and my colleagues, we're thinking like, how can we get this information to our students, right? You know, they're gone for summer, but we need them to know when our move-in deadline is. How do we do that in a way that's actually going to touch them? And so to be able to see those young women coming and spending that time and having those conversations has been really impactful. And I think that's been one of the best parts of it.
And I was gonna add to that, you know, at the end of the day, you would sit around the table and say, what's your high today? What was your look? I feel like I had two highs from the last 2 weeks. And one of those was what you just talked about, the young women. We were down at the Strand coming out of an event, and I saw this group of women and said, we're doing free screenings. And they came up, like 8 of them, all in their early 20s. And not only did they stay and get screened, they stayed for all the panels. And they got to hear from some of the people that work at For the Love of My Girls and the younger generation. And they were so engaged and excited that this was here. So that was really good to see that, you know, the young women here. But the other was a friend of ours has a porch party every year. They always give Ricky the space to kind of say what she's doing on the island. And this year, this woman came up to me and she said, I remember you last year. You stood here and gave that speech, and I came up and got a screening, and I had I think she said stage 1 breast cancer. And she said, because of you all, I've had my treatments, I had surgery, and I'm standing here today. Look at me. And I'm here it's less than a year later because you all stood on the porch last year. And to me, everybody that's around me knows I'm a crybaby. And of course I was just like, but you know, to have somebody, you know, Ricky has this all the time just because she is out there helping everybody in the community and out here on the island where people are. But to have somebody walk up to you and say, because you were here, I'm alive. That's why you're here.
Yeah, I hope it's working. But it does validate the need to be in the community. And, you know, I hate the guidelines we have for breast cancer because they don't work for Black women. And I know that, I mean, in my spirit, we need to do a better job getting Black women, young Black women screened. Right. You know, especially if they have a family history and they don't even know their genetics yet. So, you know, because they haven't had someone have genetic testing. So I'm glad we can do that. I'm glad we can do that, you know, but it's my God job. So, so do you think that, you know, we talk about a lot of things. One of the things that came up today with the men that I thought was really interesting was intergenerational health. Big words like intergenerational health they talked about. And I loved how the men on their own, without me prompting them, that I didn't have to prompt that one, was about talking about family history.
Yeah.
And they were very proud to talk about their relationships with their dad and how they talked about prostate cancer. They talked about erectile dysfunction. They talked about all these things with their dad. That was great to have these conversations. But that's what I think is good about being at the Vineyard, because most people are here with families,
Right, exactly.
with different generations, with 3 and 4 generations. And so it's a great time to have these health conversations that we know people are not having.
Right, right.
I mean, the data shows that 60% of Black families do not talk about health.
Yeah.
And that's horrific. So to be able to have the men bring that up today was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And I think that some of this, as we saw the mama and the grandmama and the auntie and the daughter all came to get screened, was a really, really cool thing. Because without, kind of generational health, it's generational wealth. And there's so many panels on the Vineyard this week about, financial planning and building wealth and all the things. But if you're not here,
If you're dead, you
Yeah.
can't have
you
any money.
can't spend the money,
Dead, you
right?
don't have a bank account.
Right.
If you're dead,
And your kids don't have you,
yeah. And that's why I do think it's so great that I think, were you like one of the first people that brought, health education to the island as a regular ongoing thing?
Well, people keep telling me that, Sid. I don't really know what happened before we came.
I know, I find that, I'm like, so everybody was here just like playing spades?
They were
And
playing
and going
spades.
to cocktail.
I think they were mostly talking about money. I mean, I remember bringing my kids to the Vineyard, and it was all about money and wealth and how to build wealth and how to secure yourself and how to be an entrepreneur and how to do investment banking and all those things. But I think, we've been talking about health for, I guess this is our 5th year. And my first year, we just did this show at the church in Edgartown, and we had about 15 people come then, but Touch Talks Wellness kind of happened last year, but I do feel like this summer there were many more conversations about health.
Yeah.
And you know what? There can't be enough of it.
There can't be enough.
If you can touch one person, like we now have 3 people that we touched, made a huge difference.
Huge.
Yeah. And I think about the evolving conversations, because absolutely there's so many networking events and investing events that are happening. But to that point of, if you're not caring about your health, something that really stood out to me on Sunday was the panelist, and you have to remind me of her name, who thought is very young, and said that she had 3 heart attacks.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Tara
And
Robinson
300 tests in like 1 year,
In
or
one-
like,
at 40.
At
age
40.
And
That-
she worked out.
And that struck me, because I think about like my own stress levels and about like trying to be off laptop this week. And I was like, because I need to kind of renew and rest and relax, because I'm only 8 years away from 40, and I was like, I gotta get to the gym when I get home. But to really have that conversation, doesn't matter how successful that you are, because we know that the rates, and particularly with breast cancer in Black women, it is even socioeconomics, it impacts us, and how our rates versus our counterparts continue to be higher. So we have to talk about health. We have to make time for that as a conversation. I'm glad that Touch is making time for it and expanding it. And people are probably following your lead.
Yeah.
I hope so. Well, Tara actually, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Oh,
Yeah, Tara, I talked to Tara a few months ago, and I said, you have to come, we have to do
Mhm.
part 2. So she's who brought the heart screening.
I wanted to add to the wonderful comment you made about men being here and talking about health, and having that intergenerational conversation and how powerful it is. And I would love to see maybe next year there be like a promise to take it off the island and go and spread it, because not everybody has a father. Not every young black man has a father. Not every young black man has an older brother, or somebody that they can find that knowledge from. So I would love to see us ask these men to promise to extend that across the communities, and across to people that don't have access like that.
And Jada, they talked about that.
Good. I'm so
They
happy. to hear
talked
that.
about the people who don't have a father, and they said, if you don't know, or in a situation where there's a single mom,
Yeah.
and they may not have a relationship with the father, they said, talk to your uncles, talk to your brothers. Your mother must have your other men in your family
Yeah.
that could give you health information and may have a story to share about whatever. You know, so don't blame it on the fact that you don't have a relationship with your father.
Right,
Find some other man in
Find
your
someone else.
family, because there's gonna be,
right.
unless you're like my family, we're all girls.
Right.
Now there's a boy.
Now you have a grand.
But before, Haley's like sneaking away, but I want her to come over here for a second. Because,
She has our mask, our.
and our-
She's the baby has helped us.
but this work would not have happened without Haley, you know, and she deserves all the credit. You know, she's my boss every day. And I try to do what I say.
Right. No, it's been really cool to be able to bring this amount of programming to this space. I'm excited to like walk to the polar bears over the next couple of days and pass the rest of our bags and make sure the information, gets out there, because like all of our amazing funders gave us so much amazing information, as well as our partners. So I just want to say thank you to all of our funders. I'm sorry, that camera. Yeah. No, but thank you to all of our funders that have made this happen. It's been really, really cool, and it's really important work. And I think that carry it forward, or like carry it on, thought is about like everyone here on this island has the capacity to go back home, share this information with their families, with their church communities, with their, sororities, their every community organization that they're in. So hopefully that everybody does that. And yeah, no, it was really cool to get heart screening, to get breast image screening, to do all those things. And we're just gonna get bigger and better.
Thank you, Haley Dale. Do you have anything to say? That's it. You're gonna kiss them.
Probably just try to make out.
That's one happy baby.
She's almost like every day.
Yeah.
So, what do you think we could do better? What do you think we're missing? I mean, I think, we try to make this a learning experience every year to say, do you think, I don't know who we're missing. I think we could do some more men stuff.
Yeah.
And more disease specific stuff. I think we tried to cover the cancers. We covered heart disease. We covered mental health. I think, and we covered clinical trials. But I think, there's still more stuff that we're not covering that we need to dig into. I would love to have had more of a conversation about HIV. We talked a little bit about HIV the other day, I think on the Women's Day. But I think that, our community is sick.
Yeah.
Black people are sick.
Kidney disease, maybe.
Kidney disease, and we talked a little bit about that with cardiovascular disease, but
I would add maybe a session on how to tell your story, because that's so impactful.
okay.
Right? Like when you learn how to succinctly tell your story and understand how to pass on the information, people want that anecdotal information. They don't really do anything with data and statistics or whatever, but just learning how to tell your story can be really powerful.
I think that's a good idea, helping people coach them, because, many people don't know they have a story.
Yeah, exactly.
They start to tell their story, and you have a story. You have a story about what happened with you, and I think,
But I also think, getting back to the young people that are on the island, I've seen so many of my friends' kids growing up, we're gonna watch Jetson and her cousins grow up on the island, but getting them at a young age and also really focusing on mental health at that young age, because if we start there with our kids while they're here on the island, hopefully when they go home, they can spread that to and be the strong people in their communities. But I think we really, from a mental health, we really need to maybe reach more of the younger kids. Like my teenage cousins are here. They have camps every day.
Yeah.
What could we do there?
Because that's where the bullying happens, right?
Exactly.
I mean, adults don't necessarily have to fear bullying as much as the kids who live. I mean, food allergies is one of the highest bullying, has one of the highest.
Yeah.
There's so much, it's so, like food allergy and asthma is oftentimes normalized, but also stigmatized, right? Like, so it's normalized where it's like, oh, you just can't breathe, like, what's the big deal? Or, oh, you just can't eat peanuts, what's the big deal? Like, don't be a baby about it.
And your throat really is
right.
You're being so
So dramatic.
Or even, yes, exactly. Or even the parent who's like, why does my kid have to not have peanut butter because your kid can, like it's just this really kind of infantile mentality where they're not understanding the disease. So making sure that people understand and teaching, that's why teaching the story So a child can tell his story to his friends and normalize, yeah.
And explain why they're in the situation.
Or why I
Yeah,
had to go to my friend's daycare because the parents were ready to have her kicked out.
Right.
And show a picture of my daughter and a picture of a jar of peanut butter and say, which one is more important?
wow, that's deep.
I mean, really? Are we real? Did I really have to come and do a whole presentation to
Yeah,
the parents and to the staff? Like,
Yeah.
stop bullying
Yeah.
this mother and
yeah.
her kid.
Yeah, I worked on this Be a Pal campaign. It's Be a Pal teaches kids in school how to understand food allergy. In fact, I have books and we're gonna give them out. It's a
Oh,
book
great.
about a young Black
Great.
girl with peanut allergy. So we'll give those out while we're here. But it's a really important story to tell because these kids get bullied, but they also don't like the other kids don't really understand the implications. And so being able to teach every kid in the classroom what a food
Right.
allergy is, why it's important. Just because you don't have it doesn't mean it doesn't affect the friend next to you. And how do you help your friend next to you? So if your friend is going to anaphylactic shock, what does that look
What does
like?
that
What
look
does that
like?
mean? Who do you call on immediately? Really training those kids because again, it's so normalized that people don't think that far ahead. And so that's really important.
I think one thing that as we plan for next year and already getting ahead, and we've been having these conversations, but fundraiser and me, and I was glad that Haley came and said we're thankful for our funders. But also having conversations with people to know that when they come and they have a great experience, that they can as individuals support, and how important it is that we continue to get resources for organizations like Touch and for the organizations that we're partnering with, because whether it is your company, your corporation, your church, a lot of Black women in communities, we give through their churches or as individuals. I've spoken to at least 5 people this year, and it was a different conversation wasn't had last year, who were like, okay, how can I individually contribute? Can I go to the donation page?
Yeah.
And so it was like we have to make it easier for people to do that, and we'll be working on that. And I know we have a great plan ahead. But really, and I thought that was really impactful. And I think the more that we're able to have those conversations. Oh,
Yep. Oh.
But what I was saying before,
We're still going.
for that,
I think that one thing we learned, that was one of the highlights of the week was, the gospel brunch.
yes.
And so that was just really fun. I
Mhm.
did cook. I think I
cook
I'm not sure if I
oh my
do
God, people
that
were
again.
so amazed that it wasn't catered and that there were pretty much like 2 people that had cooked this entire spread. It was gorgeous. And we had church up in here.
We had church up in here and that was our kind of our biggest crowd day, right?
Mhm.
People like food.
Yep.
Good.
People like gospel music. And just checking our visual, but I think that brought people together on a
Mhm.
Sunday. And Sunday's kind of a tradition day. They're either here or they're not here. They're going to church or whatever. But I think we'll make that a fundraiser next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
And people maybe will,
That's great. And people hung out and they got screened.
and they got screened when they
And
were
they
here
ate,
for brunch and they ate
and they
grits
danced.
and
They
and
danced.
danced
Oh, that's-
and
They danced.
I
Yeah,
know,
I mean, it
I
was
know.
really fun.
Yeah.
I know. We got grits and bread pudding and
I didn't get bread pudding.
my grandma's biscuit and
Still mad.
and if she's
Yeah,
still mad,
there
I have to make a
there
bread
actually
pudding,
a
all
couple of
right?
people in the house that and the food
It's
did
a
not.
rough life.
Yeah.
I will have to make.
I'm still thinking about that frittata.
I know, so, but I do think that was a great gathering thing, and maybe we'll do some more of that. I mean, people are here for vacation. They want to be festive. They want to have fun. So
Yes.
I think that's one of the things about being here is that we can bring the knowledge and the education in a way that's entertaining. I kind of, we used to have this word, I call edutainment.
Yeah.
How can we do edutainment? Right? How do you keep people happy and
I think as people, start to know that this is the Touch House or whatever the actual house is going to be named, because it's a fabulous house. I think, I don't know if you remember last year, people were driving, we were right on the Inkwell, but people were driving by. I'm like, are people like looking and taking pictures of us?
Yeah.
But I think also just because, people are hearing word of mouth that, hey, if there's nothing else to do, let's go see what they're doing at the Touch House.
Yes.
And if they have any screenings today,
Right.
that's what I feel
Yeah,
like,
the more
as the
screens
years
we
go
can
on.
do, I
Yeah.
think that's And maybe we can do allergy screenings next year.
We can definitely do
Yes.
spirometry. We can
Okay.
definitely do pheno, which tests the inflammation in your lungs.
Great.
Spirometry tests the kind of the capacity of your lungs. So those are definitely two things that we can do.
Great,
without
so
a
we'll
shadow of a doubt.
incorporate that for
Mhm.
sure. The more
Mhm.
screening we can do and more days apart screening.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we can do it. And, you know, the one thing that when we talk to people and you're diagnosed with a disease, whatever it is, you're in shock.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like you're caught off guard and you're surprised. Even the cigar smokers are surprised when they get. Stop that. But you are surprised and you're on fire now and you're scared. And so if we can, I don't want anyone to be sick. I don't want anyone to get cancer. I wish I could just make it go away, twinkle my nose, right? But we want people to them when it does happen to them, okay, I know where I can go to get help.
Yeah.
Okay, and actually interesting, one of the women we know very well, she's a very good friend who was diagnosed yesterday or 2 days ago. She got off the ferry. When she came here a few days ago, she came straight here to get her screening and then she was diagnosed. So, but when she called me to tell me, because obviously the technicians can't tell us for HIPAA laws, but she called me to tell me and she said, but I'm okay because I know that you're here, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know we helped her get a doctor appointment today, but I think that she had a I don't want to say calm, but I mean, she was pretty calm about it because I think she was prepared knowing that she was informed, that she had a place to understand, help her understand
Yeah.
things. And
And
that's what we want to be.
And that's what I love about touch too, is, people that know me know I'm the friend that never leaves, it's basically I'm at her house all the time. I go paddleboarding, but I also am there at 2 in the morning when somebody calls and says, I have a test tomorrow, or I'm scared. I don't know what this drug is. And, Ricky and her advocacy group are there 24/7. And that's what, especially with people in our culture, you want somebody explaining it to you and to know that it's going to be okay. And that there's somebody that you can call who understands how you feel, that you're not intruding. And just the fact that this woman felt, safe because she knew that out of any place that she could be, this was the place to be, because you're going to be there through every single step, every single test. I see you, touch taking people to their test, being there with them. And I think that's the thing. It starts here with the screening, but then touch, such a good name for the company because it
We're not
touches
gonna
you,
leave
it holds your
alone.
hand
We're
and
not
all
gonna
of that.
leave- No one should fight any fight of health.
And you guys touched on two of the main pillars of community engagement. I've been doing community engagement for the last 20 some years. And one, you said the edutainment part, you got to make it a vibe. Nobody's coming to learn about data, statistics, or science or whatever. Nobody
And
wants
they're
that.
shocked by the
And
data,
they're
too.
shocked by the data. And the data is a good to have, right? Because it's good to see it in numbers, but put some music on behind it, put a
dance.
bouncy house on the corner, like make sure it's a vibe, make sure it's something that's comfortable.
Right.
And then that support system, like you want to be able to talk to somebody that looks like you, that understands you, that understands your community, that understands where you're coming from, speaks your language, those are such important parts of engagement and important parts of like the health journey.
Yeah.
It's instrumental in making sure that a person gets to where they need to go.
Right. When we had
Yeah.
the young girls here, tell them Ari's story, and these girls were listening to someone who, speaks to them as their age. Like, you
Yes.
guys can say what that, I was watching them watch her when she was talking, and she knows all the lingo, and they were like, it's like, she's one of us, but she is this
She had
strong
cancer.
woman that
Yeah.
has gone through cancer, and look at her, like, it gives them a role model that's their age.
Absolutely.
It feels relatable to them. Yes.
Well, yeah, you don't think that someone who looks like you at your age is gonna get sick. Right, and I think none of us think we're gonna get sick.
Yeah.
But frankly, you don't get out here.
Yeah.
Get
We're all gonna get
One
sick
way
and
or
die.
the
We're all gonna say, that's what I remind doctors of all the time. At some point in your life, I hope it's not anytime soon, but I hope it's not anything bad. You're gonna have on this robe that I have on
Yeah.
with my butt hanging out,
Yeah.
and somebody else is gonna have on that white coat.
And there's a lot of things happening right now, like the, with the current administration, we're dealing with some issues with vaccination and the popularity of vaccinations. It's really important to
Come
educate
sit
the
up here.
community.
Dr. D just came in the room. Come sit with us. You can talk, we're just talking about what happened. You had such a great day today.
How are you guys doing?
Here, take a bite. So how do you think it went today?
Today was awesome. This entire week, this entire symposium, everything you've been putting on.
Come on up here.
Say hi.
Yeah, come on up
Stand
here.
up quietly. We can just-
Come on up here. Barbara.
It's
Intergenerational.
Yeah,
She'll help. Camera. Marley and Aiden. How old are you, Aiden?
4,
4. And how old are you, Marley?
7.
Wow.
today, no, this entire week has been amazing. Everything that you're doing, everything that you're putting on, the awareness that you're putting forward, I said the first time, is life-changing. Like, if this information gets, or as it gets into the right hands at the right time, you can save people's mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, husbands, wives, and that's what really matters.
I love what you talked about today about, your family and intergenerational health and engaging all the people in your family to have these conversations. And this is the perfect place to do it in Washington. That was a really great message.
It really is. And what's unique out here is that you get to stumble upon your people who you've seen for generations. One of the people who were in the crowd.
You can have whatever you want. This is a
You can have-
grandma house.
You can have it on my phone.
You can have whatever
He
you
will
want.
invite me by the time he leaves.
The selling point that Ricky told them the first day before she knew their name was, come to my house. I have a lot of ice cream. Yes. But they are the perfect example. There was someone in the crowd who had known myself and my mother from when I was a kindergartner at school back in New York City, and just like the full circle moment of them seeing me as a child, now seeing me as a doctor, where like we are that generation that is now advising them as your parents and your elders get older, they start to depend on you again, which is, really full circle and something that is unique to Holland.
So talk to me about a little bit about naturopathy. Like, what do you do?
So I'm a naturopathic doctor. It's a 4-year medical degree. It's licensed not federally, but state by state. And so in school, I get extensive training in nutrition, herbs, and supplements. So in traditional medical school, unfortunately, at least historically, the amount of nutritional education was always so minimal. And it is instrumental in someone's health when you really truly get to the underlying cause of disease, like we like to do in naturopathic medicine. But what is unique about naturopathic medicine is that in addition to the herbs, supplements, diet, lifestyle, exercise, I also have training in pharmaceuticals. So when you come to visit with me, I can give you hawthorn tea, I can give you berberine, I can give you St. John's wort. I can also give you atorvastatin. I can prescribe opiates as needed. In my practice, we do medically supervised weight loss. So we've been using Ozempic for years, 5, 6+ years.
I know, isn't that crazy that for years, right?
Years. It's popular now. And it's mind-blowing. It's amazing to be able to see the access that people are getting now with these GLPs, because they really are life-changing. But the unique thing about naturopathic medicine is that we can do the entire spectrum.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, the GLP ones are scaring me a little bit. Just because I don't think people are doing all the right things with them. But
They
That's
need
all
to
I
be
was saying.
supervised. I think it needs to be done right. It needs to be highly supervised, right?
I
Like
have
check-ins.
I have a lot of soapboxes on this topic. because This is what I do clinically. So I have patients who range anywhere from 150 pounds to 500 plus in my practice. And GLPs are amazing medications. And there are other amazing medications that existed before, like phentermine and so forth, for weight loss purposes. The issue with the GLPs and what is coming for us in the next couple of years, next 10 years, is we're going to have millions and millions of people on these medications that are expensive, and they never will have received adequate nutritional training, education, and counseling, like we talked about earlier today. And so you'll have people who will have lost 15, 30 pounds, which is amazing, but they had 150 to lose. and their fundamental eating patterns, haven't changed. And so they went from eating a full rack of ribs, mac and cheese, baked potatoes, and cornbread to eating half a rack with mac and cheese, baked potatoes, and cornbread. So they lost some weight, but they didn't actually fundamentally change.
What they're
And they're still
Or make them
overweight.
so sick
Right.
because they don't know how to stop eating.
Yeah, I think also too, just moving your body, the moving your body part of it. You can't ignore that, you know.
You know, the muscle mass, you know, as you're losing weight, if you want to lose weight properly, you want to make sure you're losing adipose tissue while maintaining or putting on muscle. Because like as you age as a woman and as a man, because you know we're sedentary too, you want to make sure you maintain as much muscle as possible.
I love your conversation today about ED.
Mm.
That was interesting that you thought that was like a good way to get people. to the-
That's how you get them in and then
Yeah.
keep them coming back.
If you guys missed the episode earlier today, it's on YouTube. You need to watch it.
Watch it.
Women, you need to watch these men talk about all the things that men are dealing with.
Do you want to say something or do you want to play? So if you want to play, you can go up there. If you want to say something, just say something. You want to? Okay.
So thank you guys
My
for
pleasure.
all the work that
Thank
you
you.
did this week. Thank you for everything we've done this week. And we're getting ready for next year. We're ready for next year, right?
Can I say thank you, Rick?
That's what I want to
I
say.
think, thank you, Ricky, and thank you, Touch, for those of us that are in here close with you and see the amount of love you and Haley and everybody with Touch does, you know. You are doing God's work, but it's not easy and we see it. And so we appreciate you and just know that everywhere we go, everyone is appreciating you for doing what you do.
Thanks. Thank you. Yes. We're gonna end with our latest when we trial video. We're very proud of it. We screened it last week. We're gonna just show it again because why not?
Right.
Shape the future of medicine.
When we trial,
We create better outcomes for our community.
when we trial,
We leave a legacy of health. When we trial, we rewrite the statistics. I would feel if I hadn't done a clinical trial. When I looked around and saw how Black people are really dying from every disease, we're getting disease at younger ages, at later stages. And we're all taking the same drugs and they're looking for the white people, but they're not looking for the Black people. Why is that? It's because we don't have drugs and treatments that have been tested on our bodies. In all of our global research, we are now seeing that there are differences in our disease. And we have to address that by putting Black people into the trial.
There was never a narrative in my family or my head about family history and if I could possibly have something like heart disease. At the time, I was 42, and one day, as I was driving home, I started to feel something in my chest, but it subsided after about 5 minutes. Then I saw a cardiologist. So that's actually how I found out that I had heart disease. And I still wasn't relating it to family history.
I never have done at 33, running 5Ks, never touched a cigarette in my life, would have been diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And it happened anyway. I got diagnosed when I was actually in internet, but I realized now that going through it in the beginning of my journey of being a doctor was also the beginning of going through my journey as a patient. Really let me experience everything step by step at the same time for both sides. One of the main things that I focus on now is being a bridge to the patient community.
I found out that I had prostate cancer when I couldn't urinate. Wow. I knew something was wrong. I went to the emergency room and I said, Doc, what's that white stuff floating in my body? She said, you got prostate cancer, metastatic stage 4. What I want to encourage brothers to do is be on that. And I try to help other people with understanding what you have to go through to get through it. Get examined, find resources, include your family.
35. There was nothing that says this athlete with a clean bill of health, at least so I thought, was exposed to colon cancer. My symptom was blood in the stool. However, in my case, it took something to happen, and I still ignored it at first. It took it to happen for the second time. The blood came back stronger and heavier, but you really have to take the initiative and be more vulnerable and open enough to just take care of yourself to that point.
Multiple myeloma has a stage called smoldering before it becomes active, and that's when I was initially diagnosed. But I knew there was a reason for this. We need to be advocates. We need to bring about awareness, and we need to do what we're doing now, being a part of the clinical trials, so that we can have these advances to know how it works for us.
During my diagnosis, clinical trials initially wasn't a conversation. I did seek it out, and clinical trials helps with understanding what's going on with you as an individual in that particular cancer.
I'm very happy that we live in a time now where these discussions are occurring. And I just want people to share more with their families to see if that makes a difference.
We can make a difference. People are listening. I don't want the next generation to have to suffer and have the disease that we have. And we have so many amazing patients that we talk to every day.
I've been diagnosed 10, 15 years ago, I would not have the same outlook that I have now. That is because people have done the research, people have gone through the trials, and now I'm able to be in my living room, taking my medications and living my life. I have directly benefited from the fact that someone else has gone into a clinical trial and done that research. And because of that, it has afforded me so much to live for.
People don't do clinical trials to advance science. Patients do clinical trials because they want to live. They want to live their best life. And so we try to bring the science to them in ways that will help them live their best lives. And frankly, a clinical trial gives you the best quality of care.
It's important so we know what's going to work best for us. And so we have to do this.
You know, I always have to talk about clinical trials. I always have to talk about clinical trials. So the doctor is in. We hope this has been relatable, reliable, and real, as we do every Wednesday at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening and watching. Live from Martha's Vineyard.